And welcome back, everybody, to another Friday night hangout here at I'm Not a Coach. I'm your host, Dave Huerta. Thank you so much for joining us, man. And holy cow, it's been way too long. It feels like it's only been a week, but it to me it feels like it's been like at least half a month since I last kind of broadcasted. Don't worry, this channel is not dead. It will not be dead by any means. We're just gonna get started. Unfortunately, I had some just life came up. These last week or two. Of course, right after the Super Bowl, right after the season, that's when everything just starts hitting you. But nothing bad. It's just busy, 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 trying to organize things to just get things settled and focus on the things that I want to focus on. But everything seems to be going well. And thankfully, I have a few days off of work, which will give me basically 3 full days, basically almost, to get some content out for you guys. And that's all I want to do, especially during the off season. It's so important to, not only for the channel to continue to thrive and get moving, but at the same time, man, just trying to build a good community. So if you're joining us, thank you so much. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. It helps out the channel immensely. And if you can, if you're able, man, hit up the chat, man. We got some great people that pop in every once in a while, and it's always great. It makes the stream a lot more engaging instead of seeing this handsome mug just talk at you. But yeah, man. So we always have topics that we kind of talk through during these Friday night hangouts, but at the end of the day, I care more about the chat. If the chat wants to talk about something else, football related or non-football related, we're gonna go there, man. We're gonna go where the universe takes us. And no, I have not taken ayahuasca. Don't worry, it's all right. But yeah, man. So the topic that I do want to talk about here, as we're kind of waiting for people to kind of come in, if they would like, we're going to talk about some possible landing spots for some players that might be traded, might be cut, something like that. So if you have any opinions on your team or a team that or a player that you would like actually to be traded to your team, Myles Garrett, guys like that, man. But we're going to start out with the Lizard King himself, the former Green Bay Packer and likely soon to be the former New York Jet, and that is Allen Lazard. So we're just going to pick some of the bigger names of note. We're not going to go through the entire list here that's on ESPN, but I'm going to try to talk at least about 5 guys, maybe 6 or 7. But yeah, Lazard is going to be a guy because I am a Packer fan. I loved him when he was in Green Bay. I still love the dude, man. The guy is awesome. But unfortunately, his time in New York has been shaky at best. Basically, he was undrafted guy. His first team that he was on was the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was there for a couple months, for most of the season, actually, his rookie year, until that season, at the end of the season. I think it was like around December of his rookie season back in 2017, 2018. That's when he got picked up by the Packers. And I think he was on the active roster for a few weeks to basically finish out that year. I think it was the year that McCarthy got fired is when Lazard came in. And they were dealing with a bunch of injuries, so they needed an extra guy. Lazard came in, and he not only did he do well with the small stuff, but he basically he endeared himself to Rodgers, which is not too surprising to see. Rodgers, not only does he talk glowingly of Allen not only during his time in Green Bay, but to this day, he's Rodgers' guy. Cobb is basically retired, and basically all these guys, and Lazard has been the longest tenured guy that he's been with outside of Devontae Adams. So yeah, so Lazard, his time likely has always been tied directly to how long Rodgers would stay with New York. But obviously we know Rodgers' time is done there. In a few weeks, he will likely be a post-June designated release, or cut. And I think at the same time, that's also going to spell the end for not only Devontae Adams, but also Alan Lazard. There's going to be a mass exodus of former Green Bay Packer players over the next few weeks here in New York. But yeah, man. So let's see here. Lazard's cap is around $13 million, man. That is a lot for a guy that is at best your number 3, but some probably hovering somewhere around your 4th option after Garrett's. After there's another receiver that kind of took over that number 2 spot there towards the end of the season, and then their number 1 tight end. Like Lazard just doesn't really have a role. And his first season in New York, the year that Rodgers tore his Achilles, I think Lazard was basically inactive. He was basically benched for the last month and a half that he was there. And I think there was a good opportunity if Rodgers did not play this season, if he had retired or decided to, just not want to be a New York Jet, there was a good chance that Lazard likely would not have stayed that second year or this past second year. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting where he goes. I think Lazard is gonna be directly tied to where Rodgers decides to go. There's talks of Rodgers going to the Giants. I would be surprised if he went there. I think if he did, it would be to be basically a mentor to whoever the Giants draft this next draft, and I think that's what the Giants want. I don't think they expect Rodgers to be their quarterback for more than one season, if anything. And there's a good chance that if the rookie that they draft, if they can develop him quickly, Rodgers may give way towards the end of the season to give the kid a shot, whoever it is. So, but yeah, and it would be nice to have a guy like Lazard, not only for Rodgers early in the season, but it might be good to have a veteran wideout for a young, and Lazard is a possession guy. He's got solid hands. He can run the routes well. And I think that he's a guy that's seen a lot, played a lot, and I think it would be good for a young quarterback to throw to a guy like Alan Lazard. So, but yeah, man, it's going to be interesting where Lazard goes. It's going to be interesting where Devontae Adams goes as well. I think with Devontae, I think there's a better chance of him playing on another team that Rodgers is not part of than Lazard. I think there's going to be more potential suitors for Devontae Adams, but the market for Lazard is going to be very, very, very thin in my opinion. I think there's some teams that would be willing to give him the veteran minimum, maybe a little bit more actually, but I don't think there would be a guarantee of playing time without Rodgers as his quarterback. So yeah, so that's the first guy that I kind of want to talk about, Lazard. Let me know what you think. Do you think Lazard is going to potentially sign somewhere else where Rodgers isn't? Do you think there's some smoke? Do you think there's some fire where there's, some smoke there when talking about Rodgers going to the Giants? I mean, he wouldn't have to probably move apartments at all. He would go to the same stadium that he played in the last 2 years, or last year at least. So yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see where Rodgers goes, where these other players that he's brought to the Giants, to the Jets, where they decide to go as well. But yeah, Lazard was a guy that I when I saw his name, I was like, I got to talk about this a little bit. So. Alrighty. All right, so the next guy I do want to talk about is going to be running back Najee Harris. So Najee has basically been the number one kind of up and down running back for the Steelers since he was drafted back in 2021. He was a first-round pick. I think he was actually the first running back drafted that year, if I'm correct. And they also declined. The thing to remember is that they declined his fifth-year option. because obviously that is a lot of money to give it to a guy that has played well and he's been relatively healthy, but he's just never really established himself. Not only on the Steelers as the true number one back, but he's never really popped in the NFL as like a guy that's like, oh yeah, like he can take over a game. He's had some really solid games through his 4 years, but nothing where it's just pure dominance. And when you look at guys like that are kind of in that zone, kind of top 15, almost top 5, and I would consider Aaron Jones kind of in that realm. I think Jones at his best, he is a borderline top 5, top 7 running back in the NFL. Like, if you don't believe me, talk to the Cowboys, especially anytime Jones plays in Texas. He seems to go off for about 3 touchdowns, over 125, 150 total yards. Aaron Jones, when he was at his best and is at his healthiest, the guy is just dangerous. Najee Harris, he can catch the ball. He's a solid running back. He's got good size. He runs with, I would say, inconsistent pad level. Sometimes he runs with power. The size that he has, you would think he would be a little bit more powerful, or at least more consistently powerful when he runs. But I think that's the big thing with Najee. It's just the consistency. Like, he's talented. He can do almost anything you want out of a modern running back. But it's just, there are times where he just doesn't move the ball, man. And you could argue that sometimes the Steelers' offensive line, especially over the last recent years, have not been the best. But when you look at some of the best running backs, man, they still can make some room. They still create yards. They find ways to get open in the passing game to create some mismatches here and there. Najee has not been able to do that. And I think he is going to be a guy that is, as long as he can stay healthy, I think he can have a long career in the NFL relatively to running backs. I think if you have an 8 to 10 year career as a running back, that's fairly long. You're reaching your 30s, stuff like that. But yeah, man, Najee, I think his time, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back to the Steelers, but if he did, I think it would be at a very discounted rate. I don't think he would be in the top 10 in running back payment. There might be a team that might be willing to give him somewhere around there, but I think if there's a contract or if there's a team that's willing to pay for it, I'll pray for him. It would be probably around $6 to $7 million a year. And yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting what they decide to do. Let me see here. Boom, 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 boom. But yeah, I think Najee would be. I think he would benefit from a different team. If I had to choose a spot for him, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think I just brought this team up before, but the Giants. I mean, we saw the Giants. They basically just abandoned, or basically kind of like, we're like, yeah, we don't need Saquon, we're fine. Well, Saquon literally had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, modern season in running back for a running back in NFL history. He won a Super Bowl. He was, even though he didn't have his best game in the Super Bowl, I mean, the playoffs were amazing for him. Like, the guy was just pure dominant. So consistent, so dominant throughout the entire season. And I think the Giants definitely need to bring more talent to that offense. If they're going to draft a young running back, you want a guy that he can rely on, that he can, give the ball to for a couple snaps, kind of brings things down. And like I said, Najee, is he one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL? No. But he is a solid starter. I think he is one of the, at his best, he is a mid starting running back in the NFL, somewhere between 22 to potentially 11, and like I said, he's good in the passing game. That's going to help out a running back. Check it down to him, see if he can get some yards. I think if I was Najee, I would go to a team that has a young quarterback, somebody that you can establish a rapport with, and that you can potentially be a solid number 2 or a potential number 1. And I think the Giants would be a really good landing spot for him. They're going to be overhauling that entire offense. There's some good receivers there. I think their offensive line is going to get better They did draft some guys that are young. They struggled a little bit, but they drafted them high. Sometimes offensive linemen need that extra year, need that 1 year to kind of learn, get stronger, get the technique down. And if that happens, I think that running game that we saw a few years ago with the Giants could kind of emerge again. And if they can do it with a ascending young quarterback, I mean, we've seen what a young quarterback with an offense that is willing to take chances, aka the Washington Commanders. We saw what they can do. I'm not expecting the Giants to make it to the NFC Championship game, but I think if they can build something, I think within a year or two they can be significantly better than what they were this year. And I think Najee Harris would not be a terrible option. He would be very cheap as well. I don't think he's going to demand a whole lot of money. Definitely within under 10 million, probably under 8. So yeah, I think a landing spot for Najee Harris would be the Giants. I think that would be a great spot for him. All right. Let's see here. Oh, there's a player that I think he requested a trade, and I think he was granted permission to kind of seek a trade, and that's defensive tackle for the Commanders, team we just talked about, and that is Jonathan Allen, man. So Allen, I think he was a victim. One, I think he definitely did not have his best season by his standards. I think he played fairly well for the most part, but I think there was just so much young talent that emerged during not only that entire team for the Commanders, but I think that defensive line especially definitely took leaps and bounds throughout the season that people were not expecting. And I think Jonathan Allen kind of became a slight victim to a little bit of a slump year, with coupled with the ascension of some really, really talented and multi-talented players at his position or along that defensive line. And, when that happens, man, you're not going to be able to really kind of, you're just not going to be on the field as often as you want. And it's especially a guy like Jonathan Allen, who is 30 years old. He's been in the league for a while now. The odds of you getting another second big contract or anything like that, they're slipping away. So he's definitely going to want to go somewhere else, which is why not only did he request a trade, the Commanders were like, yeah, seek a trade, man. We're okay with it. Let me see here. So Allen wasn't necessarily looking to leave, but the Commanders are not inclined to extend his deal. Allen will count $23 million against the cap in 2025. That's another thing, too. Just way too much taken up in the cap for a guy that, for the most part, even though he had a solid season, it was not bad. Let me see. He posted 8.5 sacks, 13 tackles for a loss over the last 2 years, though he missed 9 games with a torn bicep in 2024. That was the other thing, too, with an injury. By the time he came back, that defense was just playing so well without him for the most part, and I think it became very difficult to kind of slot him in. But yeah, let me see here. If traded or cut, the most likely options, the Commanders would save $16 million against the cap. He turns 30 in a month. Yeah, man, and it's like I said, he's a good player. He's coming off 2021, in 2022, he was a Pro Bowler, and again, defensive lineman, 30 years old. We've seen Cam Hayward, we've seen J.J. Watt, we've seen guys that play on the line. They can extend those careers. 30 is not like a running back or even for like a wide receiver. They're not really reliant on the speed during that. It helps, especially if you're an edge, but he's a defensive tackle. He's going to be in the middle as long as he can stay strong, and typically it's usually like a weight thing or like a weight room thing is typically the issue for big guys like that. But from what I can tell, man, Jonathan Allen is still freaking strong as hell. and I think he can still do a really good job. Unfortunately, torn bicep. That might, I think he's fully healed off of that, but that's something that teams are definitely going to want to scope out when they're thinking about trading or signing him. But he's another player that I wouldn't be. It won't happen because I think the Packers, their issues are edge and outside linebacker. Um, so I think their defensive tackles for the most part in Green Bay are good, but I mean if he came at a decent price, because I think he's got one more year on his contract, so he would be traded. Um, the only thing that would stop him is that $23 million against the cap that he would probably cost. I think the Commanders are going to have to eat some of that if they want to trade him somewhere and get some decent compensation. But it would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if a team was willing to trade, early day 3, maybe a couple day 3 picks, or maybe a solid day 2 pick for Jonathan Allen, especially if the Commanders are willing to take some of that contract. And basically they're like, hey, we're going to give you a year, prove it. If you play well, we'll get you a contract extension over there wherever he goes. If not, it's a 1-year loan, give up a third or a fourth, and see if it works for either team or for both parties, wherever Allen decides to go. But yeah, that's a player definitely to keep an eye on, because I think if he can get back to his 2021, 2022 form, I think somebody's going to get a decent bargain as long as they don't give up too much in a trade. All right. Red Fraggle, what's going on, my dude? Hope you're doing well. All right, so we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of some of the guys that I actually wanted to talk about. So first off, we're gonna talk about Cooper Kupp, one of the best wide receivers in the game over the last 10 years, man. This guy has just been an absolute beast wherever he goes. Unfortunately, he has been dealing with a lot of injuries. It's kept him off the field for a long time. So he was a first-round pick back in 2017. I mean, that's a long time to be in the NFL for a wideout. He has a cap hit of nearly $30 million in 2025. Like, no team is gonna want to take that. It would be one thing if he was in his prime, 26, 27. That's been long gone for Cooper Kupp. And there's very little guaranteed money. So if he goes somewhere, there's gonna have to be some type of restructure, and it would probably still be like a 1 to 2 year deal where the team kind of has a little bit of a wiggle room in that second year to be able to move on from Kupp if things don't work out in terms of health. But yeah, no. So Cooper Kupp, man, I wouldn't be. There's gonna be a few teams that are gonna be willing to trade for him. I don't think if they do trade for him, there's gonna be an immediate structure. There's not a contract that you're gonna want to see. Oh, if it works, great. If not, $30 million is insane for a guy of Cooper Kupp's injury history, but also his age as well. So if he does get traded, there's gonna be an immediate restructure to lower that cap hit. And I don't think the Rams are going to get much for him, even with that kind of cap hit. They're definitely, this is at most, I would say, an early day 3 trade. Maybe a couple, a 4th and a 7th, and maybe the Rams give the other team a 6th or something like that. I could see that for Cooper Kupp, but just with the way that contract is and his age and his injury history, there's not going to be a whole lot of return for the Rams. But anything is better than just getting, maybe cutting him. But yeah, for Cooper, man, it's I think he's had an incredible career with the Rams. There's nothing to be ashamed of, man. Like the guy is, Super Bowl MVP, has a ring, has broken so many records for that franchise, and I mean, the guy has just been one of the best slot receivers in the game over the last decade. And hopefully it continues, man. Hopefully he can have one more good season wherever he goes. But yeah, man, over the last 3 seasons, it says he's only played 33 games, man. Just an average of 11. That's just, you're missing a whole month of football in those games. That's a lot for a guy that you're paying well over $25 million. But a landing spot that I could see Cooper Kupp. I know people have been talking about Green Bay. Green Bay is not going to take Cooper Kupp. I don't think even if he came for free, borderline free, I don't think that Green Bay would have him. But if I had to pick a team that could use Cooper Kupp here, New Orleans, especially with those quarterbacks, they need a guy that can pick up the tough yards, quick throw, 3 to 5 yards, or at least under 10 yards, and kind of see what he can do. Cooper is probably not as fast and agile as he used to be, but I mean, the guy can still freaking burn. Chicago, that would not be surprising if he went there, especially if Chicago decides to move on from Keenan Allen. Dallas, though I don't know their cap situation though. But again, that's the thing that's gonna really decide whether teams are gonna want to trade. I think if anything, it's gonna be tough. I mean, I think for Cooper Kupp, I think his best option would be to be released, because I think that would give him the most flexibility to kind of pick a team that he wants to play for without having to worry about that team, not wanting to take on this contract. Kansas City would not surprise me if he decides to go there, especially if they're able to get him for extremely cheap. Maybe he wants to win a ring one more time. Houston would be an interesting landing spot for him. I think he would work really, really well with that offense. I think especially with the injury to Tank Dell, they definitely need some wide receiver injury. Who knows if Stephon Diggs is going to even be there as well. But yeah, man, Cooper Kupp, I think the Texans want to go younger at the receiver position. But, I mean, you could do a lot worse with Cooper Kupp, especially for a 1-year kind of loan. Get a good slot receiver that can still kind of run vertically. You can still do some vertical routes for sure. And yeah, man, I think he would do extremely well with that offense, man. I would love to see what Cooper Kupp could do with one season in Houston. That might open some things up too. So, but yeah, those are some landing spots I think that he could fit. Chicago, Houston. I like him going to a team that has a young quarterback that is not afraid to throw. Let me see here. Next, Deebo Samuel. We know Deebo is going to be leaving San Francisco. I don't think there's any doubt of that anymore. For sure, Deebo. I think he's done with San Francisco, and I think San Francisco is more than done with Deebo, and not necessarily in a bad way. I don't think there's any animosity. I think it's more Deebo wants to be the featured guy. He wants to be the number one option. And one, that's not the way typically Shanahan's offense is run. If it's anything, I should say, not if it's anything, like it is very much like Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, there isn't really a true number one. They like to spread the ball around, not only to the wide receivers, but to the tight ends as well. And Deebo is a guy that likes volume, even though, in my opinion, he's too small of a guy to handle that. Like, we've seen it, man. Even before he really, truly broke out, he's always dealt with injuries. I think he's only had 1 or 2 seasons where, I think it was only 1 season where he's played every single game. And even then, some of those seasons where he did play the majority of the season, almost every single game, there was times where he just couldn't practice because, whether it was a rib, a lower leg injury, an arm. I know he had a shoulder injury a couple seasons ago. This year he was dealing with like a lung infection, and then was dealing with other injuries as well. And don't get me wrong, he's tough. Debo is a tough son of a gun, man. He is, the way that they used him in San Francisco, running back, wide receiver, basically any position that you could think of outside of offensive lineman, Debo has done. He's thrown passes, he's, option, things like that. Like, Debo is a great versatile player. I think he is a tough guy. But man, dude, it is it's been tough to see him kind of slowly kind of give way to the injuries, and I think part of that has been the amount that he's been asked to do. And like I said, Debo is not going to say no. He's not one of those guys that's like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. He'll be willing to do anything. It's a great player to have. But dang, dude, it is expensive to have a guy that's making $30+ million a year, but missing anywhere between 4 to 7 games a season. It's a lot. So yeah, I think if he goes anywhere, it's gonna be and he's gonna want to go to a team that is gonna be willing to feature him. Who knows, man? Maybe he goes to LA and teams up with Puka Nacua. That'd be crazy. I can see him going to Arizona, kind of being the number 2 to Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm trying to see here. I'm trying to think of a team that would want him for sure to be their number 1 guy. Like obviously Buffalo, things like that. Those are teams that he would love to play for, but would they feed him the ball? That would be the issue. And I think the only teams that I could see him getting the volume that he wants would be New Orleans. New Orleans that might be a little bit different with Kellen Moore there. Kellen Moore, when he was if his offense is similar to what he used to run in Dallas, I think they could use a guy like Debo to be your number 1, kind of do it all back, or running wide receiver. But like I said, the injuries, and I think Debo is a lot. He's not as big as CeeDee Lamb. Trying to think here. The Chargers could be a spot for him. I don't think he would be the featured the wide receiver there. Las Vegas, I could see them willing to shell out some money or take on that contract for a potential explosive wide receiver that they need in that offense. Yeah, unfortunately for Debo, man, there's just you could just tell that the tide is kind of turning on wide receivers. If this was back in 2021, 2022, yeah, there would be probably more than half the league would be willing to take on that contract for Debo, and not only because at that time he was putting up some major numbers, healthy, but they were overpaying wide receivers a buttload of money, man, a buttload of money. But I think it's starting to kind of swing. I think the pendulum is starting to swing against these receivers, and I think you're starting to see a lot of young, rookie contract guys putting up some big numbers, man. And unless you're a guy like Justin Jefferson, like Jamar Chase, you're probably not going to be making $30+ million. There might be a few guys here and there that get that, but those are guys that probably will not be seeing a good chunk of that money. I don't want to say the majority, but a good chunk of that money. So yeah, for landing spots for Debo, I don't see many teams willing to make him the true number 1 receiver. I think there's always going to be a hesitancy with the injury history that he has, and just his size, man. Like I said, he's a tough guy, but he's not massive. He's not a massive human being. He's 6 feet tall, which, if for a wide receiver is probably 2 to 3 inches shorter than the minimum that you would want for your number 1 guy. but he's a versatile guy. How old is he right now? He just turned 29, so still kind of young. He's probably got another 2 or 3 years that teams would kind of consider part of his prime. But like I said, it's the injuries, the production that has gone slowly down over the last few years. I think that's going to keep him from truly being the number one receiver that he wants to be part. I think his best role would be being a number two, a true number two. That's why I think if he went to Arizona, I think it would be amazing. Restructure that contract, give that team some more cap room, more flexibility. Be the number two guy to a guy like Marvin Harrison, who has the pedigree and also has the physical tools to be a true number one in the NFL. I'm trying to think of another team that he could go to. Atlanta, but I don't know, man. That's they can't seem to figure out how to use their weapons well. Like I said, Chicago could be another landing spot for him, but I think they want to go. I think they want to go younger, and plus they have a guy that's kind of similar to what Debo does. Yeah, the Raiders, they need a weapon, but I think his best bet would be like a team like Arizona that already has the potential number one, but they need a Robin to their Batman. All right. And then the final player, like I said, there's a couple guys that I did want to talk about, but I don't have too many deep opinions on. Like Jamel Dean, big name, great player, has played some really good football over the last couple of years, but I don't really know. I would be lying to say if I was like, oh yeah, I know Jamel Dean, I know him as a player, I've seen it not a whole lot. But that's a guy that the name, if you've been watching football within the last 5 years, you know that he's been a solid starter for that team. I'm pretty sure he was the starting corner or one of the starting corners when they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady a couple years ago. But yeah, man, it's Ty Chandler. I don't really have much of an opinion on him. Tevin Jenkins is a guard that I've noticed. I know he played really well to start his career. Captain Mickey Mouse, what's going on, dude? Hey, have you heard of Brandon Mason showing before? He does sports shows every morning for us in Eastern time. No, Brandon Mason, no, man. I'll check him out for sure. Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Trust me, there's a lot of great people, man. Like, Perno, Grassi, those obviously, those guys are always doing their stuff. Brett Coleman, great guy. Like especially if you want to get into the draft or the nitty gritty of stuff, and you're looking for somebody that does great draft content, look up Brett Coleman. He's by far the best on doing YouTube right now. So he's a guy that I hope someday I can even reach somewhere towards that level of what he does. Probably not, but hey, man, shoot for. I want to shoot for as high as I can. And Brett Coleman seems like a good guy too. So yeah, if you're looking for some great draft content this year, go to Brett. 1 second, can I get this link for you? Yeah, man, for sure. Heck yeah, I'll look him up for sure. Yeah, it may not be on the stream here, but I will definitely check it out, Mickey, for sure, man. Next time when we do a Friday night hangout, man, I'll shoot you my opinion on him. All right. So the final thing that we will talk about here, the final player that I do have a deep opinion and a long opinion on this, but I won't ramble, is of course the Green Bay Packer starting corner, Jair Alexander. Without going too much into detail, this story has been basically a year and a half in the making. It kind of started back in 2023 when Ja was unfortunately suspended by the team after kind of going rogue during a coin toss. I think it was against Carolina. He was going back to basically his hometown, or at least his home state for sure. and he was not elected a captain. I think Matt LaFleur has admitted that might have been that was an oversight. That wasn't something intentional. That was not like a shot at Ja, but I think he did take it personal. And I don't know if he expressed. I don't know if we ever got an answer if Jair ever expressed that to Matt LaFleur before or kind of the week leading up to that. But unfortunately, Ja, not only was he out there with the captains that he was not elected to be, he also took it upon himself to call the coin, and he almost ended up losing a possession for the Packers because he ended up saying that he wanted to play on defense to start the game. But if you know anything about the coin toss, you have to either say that you want the ball first or you want to defer to the second half, because if you just say we want to play on defense, that gives the other team the ball not only to begin the game, but it also gives the team the option in the second half to choose whether they want to kick the ball or get it again. And obviously the team is going to want the ball again. So the Carolina Panthers had the opportunity to get the ball in the first half and actually get the ball in the second half. But thankfully the referees kind of saved Ja there for a bit. They were like, oh, do you want to defer? And Ja was like, yeah, whatever. So that was the other thing too. So ever since then, it's been kind of weird with Alexander. And he came back. He handled it like a professional. He played the season. He looked solid. But you can definitely tell his play was not to the level of what you were expecting. And if you ever look at interviews during that time throughout that season, you can tell it was something that was lingering in Alexander's head. Just the way he was responding to those questions. I think he did want to move on from it, but I think it was something that still bothered him. And then this season, still a little bit of a weirdness with him, but John's a professional. He's going to go out there and play. He did not have a great season. He dealt with a lot of injuries. He only played, I think it was around half the year. And they tried to get him back. They tried to, put him, it was just a back and forth, and it just did not work this year, man. And unfortunately for Ja, they're paying him at the time of the signing of his newest contract, he was by far the top corner in NFL history. He's since then been overtaken by a couple guys, but yeah, man, he's still one of the highest paid guys at his position, and he has played basically less than a full season over the last 2 years, through suspensions, through injuries, things like that. So, and like I said, there was rumors that he was dissatisfied with the team, and there was also rumors that the team was a little dissatisfied with him and his inability to play through some injury. And the Packers are very, very, when it comes to, they're very conservative with their injuries. Typically a guy needs to play practice a full week. Typically has to practice almost 2 full weeks before they're willing to put him in the game, especially at like a position where it's very physical. You're going to be running a lot. Sometimes with offensive linemen, you might be able to, they're willing to take some chances, but guys like Ja, where they have to sprint, they have to run, they have to tackle, they have to be very physical, they typically are very conservative. But yeah, man, with Ja, it just did not happen this year, and fortunately, man, I think both parties, I should say, are wanting to start fresh. I think Ja wants to be on another team that is where he can really establish himself as the top guy. I don't know how much of a leader he is, and this is not a critique of his leadership. I'm talking about more of like the way that the team responds. I think in that locker room he has so much respect. I think his teammates love him and respect him as a player, as a man. But I think Ja wants to be able to create his own culture in that locker room. And I think Green Bay has been, I don't want to say restrictive, but I think they've been telling him, hey, keep it to a certain level because we don't want you to be a distraction, or we don't want to get distracted. And I think Ja doesn't want that. he wants to be able to lead and talk how he wants. And I think there's plenty of teams that are going to be willing to do that. And I don't think Ja is like a diva. I don't think he's he's a number one corner, man. You got to have some swagger to you. And I don't think he's a guy that, it's not about I want the power and I want to be able to do whatever I want. I don't think it's that. I think it's I want to be able to lead my way without feeling that I am being told to, hey, you need to toe our line, otherwise, blah blah blah. And to be fair to the Packers, man, they've created a culture that they want, and it has worked for a long time. You can argue that they've only won 2 Super Bowls, during this great renaissance that they've had, but they've been one of the best franchises in the last 30 years. There's only maybe 2 other franchises that you can argue that have had more consistency, and that is probably the Patriots and even just recently the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's because they've won multiple Super Bowls, dynasties. So yeah, let me see here. Mickey, just search Brandon Mason. Show me him as a blue icon. Okay, and then a red outline. You heard Bills are keeping Mitchell. Oh, are they? Heck yeah! All right. Mitchell Trubisky, man, keeps on finding work. I think Mitchell Trubisky is a solid quarterback, man. He's going to be a guy that's going to be in the league for a long time. He's been in the league for a while now. What was it, like 2018 when he came in? 2017? Trying to see here. Mitchell Trubisky, I got to look. Because I know he came in that draft with Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, man. Mitchell Trubisky, man. I'm not surprised, man. I think his time in Chicago paints a lot of people's opinions of the player that he is. I don't think he was ever truly a number, I think he had raw talent. I think he had a solid arm, but he was, I don't know if he was not properly developed in Chicago by any means. I don't think anybody's going to look at that coaching staff and that culture and be like, yeah, this is a team at the time that is going to be able to build the next, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. It was not good. And we've seen that. We've seen Justin Fields, unfortunately, fail to develop. And right now we're seeing, oh my God, what is going on here? I forgot his name. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. I have, Caleb Williams. My goodness. There we go. God. Yeah, and we've seen Caleb, it's only his first year. He's an incredibly talented player. But you can tell that there was just, the guy was running for his life for most of the season. Allen needs to help them throw better, though. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think the Bills are definitely, I think they're satisfied with the talent that they have with Mitchell Trubisky. I think he's getting better as a quarterback, but I think we've seen what his peak is, and I think it's a solid number 2. He's a guy that if the starter is injured for a week or 2, maybe 3, it wouldn't be surprising if he got you 2-1, 3-0, But the thing with Trubisky is just his accuracy and decision making has always been questionable. Even when he was in college, it was kind of iffy. And you can argue that the talent that he went up against in college was not to the level that you would expect of a second overall pick. But I think Chicago was very much looking at the raw talent, the arm, the ability to move with not only within the pocket but outside the pocket. And I think Trubisky also is a guy that is probably very well liked. There's very few negative opinions of anybody. Like some people, there's going to be arguments that he's not a great quarterback, but there's almost nothing to indicate that he is a bad teammate or incapable to lead somebody, So I think that's a big reason why I think the Bills want to keep him. I think he's a great locker room guy. He's a guy that's been in the league. Has he always played at an extremely high level? No, but he has been in really big games. He's performed at times really well. And I think he knows that system also very well. And I think, the Bills like him. They like his talent. He's very much Josh Allen light. He's got a big arm. He can move very athletically, like Josh, not to the extent, but they don't have to change their offense very much if he needs to be in the game. And then let me see. You're going to be live for the NFL draft, so you can show us who got drafted. So I will be trying to go live during the draft. I will see how it goes. To be honest with you, if I can find a spot to like sit down and just kind of either through my phone or through my laptop kind of stream, I will definitely try. I don't know how the Wi-Fi situation will work out, but regardless, man, there's definitely gonna be videos, content, stuff like that, and I'm gonna try to get as much stuff as I can during those days. Yeah, luckily I'm not gonna be too far from Green Bay. I'm like basically like 35 minutes away from Green Bay when I'll be staying up there. And yeah, man, I'm gonna try to see what I can do, and I'm trying to find some information, but it's been very difficult to get like more information from the NFL. They said like as we get closer, there's gonna be more information, but yeah, as of right now, it's more of like I'm gonna try to show up and see what I can get into. You know, hopefully there's events that I can kind of get involved with, or at least get a chance to kind of record and show. Yeah. And then worst comes to worst, if there's some stuff that I can't record, you know, for one reason or another, there's going to be documentation of it, pictures. I'm going to jot everything down, and we're going to be, you know, I'll do a live where the next, you know, for like 2 or 3 hours, all I talk about is what happened, what I saw, what I did, anything like that. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some stuff for sure. All right, see here. The Bill Stadium is getting ready for 2026. Yeah, man. Yeah, that stadium looks massive. And it's fair that that stadium is typically especially when you get like a great quarterback and you start winning a lot. That's when you start seeing teams really start to invest in a new stadium because they know this is going to be their best chance to be able to get a new stadium. They can make the argument, hey, we're winning, we're bringing in people, we're helping the local economy, stuff like that. I still wish that most of these teams would be willing to pay most, if not all, of the cost of the stadium. I don't like it being on the taxpayers, but that's just kind of the way that it is right now. There's very few teams that are willing to do that. The Packers are one of the few teams that I know that they don't pass the buck onto the taxpayers of Green Bay. I think also they know that the taxpayers of Green Bay would not be willing to do that because it's a very small community. But that's why the Packers kind of sell stock, and they don't want to get a brand new stadium. They just want to build onto and modernize Lambeau Field, and it's one of the best stadiums in all of football, man. I've been to it a couple times for preseason games or for other events. It's a beautiful stadium, man. It's like there's not a bad spot. I've been all the way at the top. I don't want to say near the sidelines, but relatively close, kind of that inner bowl part. It's a great stadium, man. It's always beautiful to walk through, whether you're getting some food or just kind of finding your seats, man. It's a beautiful stadium, and the Packers have done an amazing job of kind of keeping the mystique, and I don't want to say mystique, the mythos and the beauty of that stadium. I guarantee you, if you could talk to somebody that went there when it was probably being first built, back in the 50s and so, 50s, yeah. And I guarantee you, there would be a lot of different things there, but the structure of it would still keep the essence of it. Sorry, I'm trying to find words here. But yeah, man. So let me see here. Hey, bring us live to a Packers game. Oh, heck yeah, man. Yeah, there's God, I think if I did do a live game, it would probably be a preseason game. Because I like to be here during the games, stuff like that. If there was ever an opportunity to be like, if the Packers were ever to reach out, I don't know why they would, but who knows, man? In 5 to 10 years, if this channel is big enough, maybe the Packers are like, hey, you want to come up and see some behind the scenes stuff, on game day, I think that would be the one time that I would be willing to kind of maybe not stream the Packer game from my house. I think that would be the only thing that would stop me. Otherwise, I always want to be streaming this game because I want to be with you guys. I know I wanna be able to talk about the game with you guys, the chat. I think that would be a little bit more difficult during if I was in the stadium, because the noise, the game, I would get probably too enthralled and just kind of miss some stuff. But yeah, I love watching the game with you guys. So there would have to be something extremely, and I mean extremely special to try to pass that up. Could you check one in Buffalo or no for preseason also? Let me see here. Are you talking about streaming a Buffalo preseason game, or are you talking about probably going to one? Let me see here. Yeah, I don't even know if the preseason schedule for this next season is even out yet. I think they have the players or the teams, but I don't think the schedule is completely out. Yeah, no, not yet. I'm not seeing anything for the Bills preseason, but yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something I would think about. I probably won't be doing it this season. If I do, I think that's something kind of down the road, for sure. But yeah, there's always things that I always want to do and try to get going because like I said, man, this channel is something that I want to do. I want it to grow. I want it to be something that the ultimate dream is this could be my full time job. I'm not looking for, you know, like to be honest with you, the fame and any of that stuff is something I don't want at all. Seems like too much pressure and all this other stuff. But I'm not even worried about that. I don't care about that. If it comes, I'll deal with it, and it will be something that I do deal with. But I want this to be a community that people can, whether they're at work or heck, they're even at home, and if they want to, chat with the people in the chat, man, we got some great people here, or just kind of hang out and just talk about football. That's what I want. I'm asking if you could stream Buffalo preseason. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, I don't see why not, man. I'll see what I can do. Once the preseason kind of comes out, I'll see what I can do because I like preseason. To be honest with you, I know some people were like, oh, we got to get rid of the preseason. I love the preseason. I love seeing guys that probably are not going to make the team or just maybe they're just there. I've always remembered the 2010 Packers preseason because that's when we got Sam Shields. I remember that was the first game I ever went to was Packers against Indianapolis Colts. Peyton Manning played 2 series. He was picked off by Sam Shields, who was a undrafted rookie out of Miami. And not only did Sam Shields pick him off, he took it for a pick 6. And Sam Shields, a couple months later, would intercept 2 passes in the Bears NFC the game against Chicago in the NFC Championship game to get us to the Super Bowl. He actually intercepted the final pass that basically ended any opportunity for the Chicago Bears to make a comeback, and it punched our ticket to the Super Bowl where we won. So like that kind of story, you're not gonna get that every year with an undrafted guy, but man, dude, it's just so much fun to be able to see like the beginnings of a guy that wasn't expected to make the team and then just wills himself into not only a spot on the 53, but basically by the end of the season, Sam Shields was the number 3 behind Tramon Williams, behind Charles Woodson, and he played well, man. He's an incredible player, and yeah, that's the reason I love the preseason. If you get rid of it, you don't get that. You don't get that. Yeah, it's practice. That's where the majority of the opinions are going to be taken from for coaches. But man, dude, being under the lights on TV and seeing these guys make plays to continue their dreams, it's awesome. It's the best. So, wait, how far is Buffalo from where you are? Oh God, I'm not sure. I live in Wisconsin, so I would probably have to, I would have to kind of drive through Illinois, and stuff like that. It would probably, at minimum, probably be 10 to 12 hours, I would say. Yeah, at minimum, I would have to double check it, but it would. I guarantee you, it's at least 10 plus hours to get to Buffalo. I've driven to Maryland before, and that was about a 9 to 10 hour drive. Let me see here. Oh my God, that's not bad, Dave. It's almost a 12-hour drive from Lambeau to. It's not bad. There you go, 12 hours. All right, I was almost spot on. But yeah, man, it's not too bad. No, not at all. Not at all. And that's actually a stadium I do want to. That would be awesome to be able to watch a game or be in that stadium, that brand new stadium that they're gonna build in a couple of years. So yeah, man. Yeah, that's like I said, man. There's things that I do want to do in this channel. I just know it's gonna take a few years to kind of build things up, and like I said, the more this channel grows, the more I can truly invest in it. And that's not like oh, I need this channel to be big so I can do this. It just means that the more this thing can succeed, the more I'm gonna be able to kind of move away from the other stuff and really make this my number one. Not just a passion. This is my number one passion. I my other job is great. It helps pay the bills, but it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. This is something I would want to do for the rest of my life. I hope to be an 85-year-old man and being like, all right, Jordan Love the fourth is gonna throw to, like hopefully that doesn't sound that awful, at 87. But yeah, man, if I can do this until the day I croak, that would be amazing. But yeah, man. So, but yeah, so yeah, and like I said, going to like kind of doing like what Tom did. I may not do 30 for 30. That's Tom thing. I'll come up with my own thing at some point, but being able to visit NFL stadiums would be amazing. It would be awesome. And it's something that if I'm a football fan, dude. Like I said, like I'm a Packer fan, but I'm a football fan almost first. Like I love the history of the game. If there's a good game, even if, like I said, man, it was tough for me to root for the Eagles, or not root for the Eagles. It was tough for me to see the Eagles win the Super Bowl because they knocked off the Packers this year. But I can't argue, man. That team was amazing. That defense was great. Saquon was great. Jalen, when he needed to be great, he was great. That offensive line was dominant for almost the entire year. It is tough to argue that the Eagles were not one of the... I mean, they were one of the best teams. They were one of the top 3 best teams for the majority of the year. There was a couple games here and there where they did not look amazing on offense, but for the most part, they were one of the dominant teams in the NFL, and it's not surprising they won it all. And it was great football. It was great to see them week after week. They rarely ever had a bad game. Maybe you could get 3 preseason games, Ravens, Bills, and Packers in the same week. Man, that would be a lot, but heck yeah, man. Like, that would be pretty cool, man. If I could travel to these games all in the same week, that would be probably really hard to do. But yeah, man, it is definitely something that I have big things for this channel, but I know those are going to be way in the future, way in the future, and I also want to get better at this, and I hope to get better every day. Yeah, and yeah, especially now with kind of things calming down in my personal life and things like that. And like I said, there was nothing bad. It was just you gotta get life organized every once in a while. I'm gonna start. I have a couple days off of work. I'm gonna start recording some of that film content. I actually have let me see here. What is this film room playlist that I already have? Right now, I'm actually watching Week 1, Ravens versus Chiefs. I'm breaking down that film right now. It is interesting, man. These are some of the best teams. We already knew that the Chiefs and the Ravens were going to be one of the best teams in the NFL coming into this year, and they looked great for most of the season. Obviously, they had some bad games here and there, and they didn't win it all, but they were very entertaining. And week one was a heavyweight fight, and it gave us all the drama that you want. And literally, the Ravens were a single toe away from starting out the season with a win. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. That's the first game I'm going to be breaking down, and I hope to get a couple games recorded before I start posting them. Just that way I can give you guys consistent content. I don't want to be kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and if something were to happen, I'm like, I can't post. I want to be able to have some stuff for you guys week after week, regardless of what might happen. So yeah, those are the things I'll be doing over the next week or so. So definitely look out for those in March. If you fly to those towns, it might be easier. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. A road trip would not be bad. It would be pretty cool, but I think if I did do that, I would definitely need to have another person with me for sure. Yeah, I gotta have my own Johnny Barks with me if I'm gonna be doing that. Yeah, and like I said, like this channel, it's just me. There's no editor. There's no nothing. There's nobody else that is working on this channel. It's just me, and I like it. I'm like I said, I'm learning. I'm growing. It's only gonna get better as it continues to grow, and I want to challenge myself to get better at everything that I do. It's just how I've always been. Never like to limit myself to where I'm at, because I always feel like if there's expectations, not only for myself, of myself, but of other people, I'd like to meet those and exceed those, because it's a great challenge. But yeah, finishing up with Alexander. Actually, he goes to a team, I think the Packers are obviously gonna have to trade him. I would be surprised if they cut him, because I think they could get something for him. But I think if there was a team that would be willing to trade for him, I'm trying to think of who has, cap room at this point. Cleveland. It wouldn't be the first time the Packers traded one of their starting corners to the Cleveland Browns. Let me see here. Denver. I know they have some cap room. They could use another corner there. LA, the Chargers. I don't know their cap situation. I know they have a little bit of wiggle room, but who knows? I don't think the Packers would want to trade him within the conference, but if they're willing to give up a good chunk of draft capital, I think the Packers will be willing to pull the trigger. But yeah, I think those are the best. Gonna probably be the best landing spots for Alexander there. I think because he wants to win. He wants to win a Super Bowl. The Chargers, Denver Broncos, and potentially, and I do mean potentially, maybe Houston or Baltimore. But I don't know their cap situation though, so that may not work. Buffalo, I don't think they have a whole lot of cap room, so I don't think they would be able to get him, but that would be a place that I guarantee who would like to go. Miami maybe as well, so, but, yeah. But yeah. I think, yeah, man, we have some people here, man, so thank you so much for watching, man. Please leave a like, subscribe. We're going to keep it rolling, man. So expect some videos out. I'm always going to communicate with you guys. I always want to be honest where we're at. I don't want to string you along or anything like that. I'm always going to be an open book. And also don't hesitate, man. Like if you guys are looking for something, let me know, man. I'm always I have my ideas of what I want from this channel, but if your idea meets my what I want to do, or even if I think it's a challenge that I want to take on, let me know. It works if you fly from MK to BWA or SWA. Oh, okay. There we go. Heck yeah, man. Mickey Mouse. When I decide to do this in a couple of years, man, you're gonna have to be my travel agent, man. You know the flights, my man. You know the airports. Definitely, I'm gonna have to hit you up if I can ever do this stuff, because I'm gonna be like, hey, man, what's the best route? What's the best route? I need to. But yeah, man. I appreciate you, man. I really do. Thank you. But yeah, man. All right. I think that's gonna be it for me tonight, guys. Um, so we had some decent content here. Talked a little bit about football. Talked a little bit about life, the channel. Definitely some travel plans, and some things to hopefully put on the big dream board over the next couple of years. So, but yeah, man. Like I said, this channel isn't going away. It's only gonna get bigger, man, and it's gonna take a little bit of time, but we'll get there. The off season is a long off season, but it'll go at a clip. Oh yeah. Hold on, before I go here, let me look it up here. Brandon Mason. Let's check it out. Oh, okay. Yeah. I see him. Yeah, man. We'll check it out. We'll check him out for sure. Yeah, man. Thank you for the recommendation, my dude. All right, guys. Thank you so much for popping in here. Shout out to Mickey Mouse for sure, Captain Mickey Mouse. My apologies. And then, but yeah, man. Thank you so much. If you watched a little bit of this, let me know, man. Leave a like, subscribe. I always appreciate you. And I will catch you guys next week for another hangout. And if I can drop a video, man, I'm gonna try to, like I said, I'm gonna record them. I'm gonna edit them, and as soon as they're done, they're gonna be posted. So look out for those as well. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Please be safe. Have a great weekend as well. And yeah, man, go Pack Go, and hopefully the off season can get going here, man. I'm dying. I need some action. I need some football action. You know. But March is gonna be it, man. Combine, free agency, things like that, man. They're gonna be popping off. So yeah, man, it's gonna start get wild here in the off season. So thank you so much, man. Have a great night. Oh heck yeah. Mickey Mouse. I'll catch you later, my dude. I appreciate you. You have a wonderful night, man. I'll catch you guys later.